What's going on, Falcons fans? Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today. Matthew Peterson here, getting you guys ready for Week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles in what kind of feels like a must-win game for Atlanta, starting off 0-1, and then the Kansas City Chiefs await you in Week 3, so you don't want to mess around too much. We've got Nicholas, Rayanne, Tyman the Buckeye, Nick in the chat already. Thank you guys for tuning in early and often. As always, we like to let the audience kind of build up for the first few minutes of the live show. So shout out your city for me in the chat down below. We have a new feature for our shout out the city. So I really encourage you to get in the chat right now and shout out your city. I think you might like what we have cooked up for you guys today. So get in the comment section and let me know where you are tuning in from. I've got Grand Limousine, Marlon, Ryan in the house as always. Tyman the Buckeye, the leader of the chat. Xavier, Rayanne, Kenneth Hayes, Grand Limousine, Nicholas, Adam. Is it working? Are we ready to unveil it? Oh, now we're getting somewhere. Mason B, Petey, watching from Denver, Colorado. Have to go to work in a few minutes. Mason, thank you. Okay. Mason, thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a decent day at work. I mean, I got up super early this morning, so I'm kind of just like, I wouldn't say falling asleep, but doing some morning workouts, and right around now I start to crash. But I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't really like any of the energy drinks, so I just kind of power through and just try to get to the rest of the workday. Okay, let's unveil it, yeah. So we have been in the lab cooking up, I think, a really cool, neat graphic. It's a live poll of the chat. So everything you guys say in here, which I probably shouldn't announce because now you guys are going to get some perverted things in your head, will get on screen. So I think it's kind of cool. Chris, watching from Madison. Nick, the mean streets of Marietta. Sean is in Augusta, Georgia. So the quicker you guys get in the chat, the quicker this thing moves, and then it gets to your comment section. So let me know. Let's see. Ryan in Atlanta, and then, like I said, I think Sean in Augusta, Mr. Turner in Somerville, South Carolina, Montel Carter in Kansas City, Tyman the Buckeye already exposing that we are behind. Thank you very much, Tyman. That was unnecessary. Let's see. I've got Mr. Gutierrez in Tijuana, Mexico, Vancouver, Washington in the house. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty cool, neat, nifty little way to get the audience even more airtime and on the screen, since it's called Chat Sports, not Matthew Sports. Now, before we look at the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest weaknesses for this upcoming game, we do got to tell everyone, Reed, about our sponsors today. So let's kind of fill everyone in on the great folks over at Game Time and Prize Picks for supporting us here at Chat Sports, beginning with Game Time. Game Time, by the way, if you haven't heard, has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And then we also got to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. They have a really fun deal going on in the month of September where you can get Caleb Williams at 0.5 passing yards and just hammer the more. So download the Prize Picks app today. It's guaranteed to receive the $50 bonus even if you don't win. Prize Picks. Run your game. Okay. We got 94 people hanging out with us already. Just 15 likes, though. So if you're just tuning in, quick plug here. Hit that like button. It really does go a long way to support the channel. So with that being said, who you got? I need a quick sip of water. I was running out. Falcons, Eagles. It is crazy how week one can make you feel so good or so bad about your team, no matter what the outcome is. But I do think there are some justified, I wouldn't say overreactions, but fair reactions to what was just kind of a disaster offensive performance week one. If the Falcons lost week one 21-20, okay. You all right? Chris Boswell has a performance of a lifetime, 6 for 6, 3 plus 50-yarders. Okay, we can kind of make do with that. But Kirk Cousins not playing a single snap from under center, no play action. To me, that just screams incompetence. Or he's not healthy. And I don't know which one's worse. But it screams one of the two. So who you got? I want to just go Falcons just to be optimistic. But, man, the Eagles looked good week one. Their offense was rolling. So, I mean, I'm inclined to take Philly. But I'm going to go with the Falcons. I am nervous. I mean, I was nervous about this game before the season even started. Right? I think my preseason schedule prediction video was win against the Steelers, loss against the Eagles. I think I might have changed it from loss to the Eagles to a win to the Eagles, from the one in May to the one in August. But now you're kind of staring at 0-3. If you can't get a win here, Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, that's not going to be easy. I'm nervous. I am nervous. Cassidy was nervous against Pittsburgh. I was so confident that I actually became nervous that I was too confident. And that's exactly what happened. Anytime you're too confident in the NFL, it doesn't happen. That's just the way it works. Leroy, Falcons going 2-1. I like your mentality, Leroy. Give me what you are drinking. Mason B. Petey, is the order to not play the Falcons starters in the preseason is coming from the very top? Is Arthur Blank mandating this? I can't remember the last coach that has done so. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think Arthur Blank is getting involved that much in the preseason, micromanaging that much in the preseason. That doesn't seem like a time when an owner wants to micromanage. If you have a micromanaging owner, that tends to happen in the regular season. I don't think they're going to care too much about the preseason snaps, but possibly. I can't say definitively yes or no. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's video, speaking of Mason B asking a question and using hashtag Falcons, if you have any question at all going into this matchup or about the previous game or anything else, use hashtag Falcons somewhere in the chat, and that way our software can find the question, pull it, and put it on screen. Or super chat. If you super chat, we guarantee it goes on screen for everyone watching to see. So if you have a question or a take you're dying to ask and you want everyone to watching to see, super chat, great way to support the channel, and we'll give you some love by putting it on screen for everyone watching to see. But with that being said, we can get ready for our first segment on today's live show, which is all about getting ready for the Philadelphia Eagles. But first, I do want to give a quick shout-out to the Dirty Birds Club. Jose Santana, Ken Ballard, Trey1222, Jason Landino, Reese Atkins, Archangel, Angry Liquid. Shout out to all of you guys for all of your support throughout the entirety of this channel. And if you want to get added to the Dirty Birds Club, $100 super chat will add your name to the club, and we'll give you shout outs for the entire 2024 season. Okay, are we ready to get into our live show? Over 100 people tuned in, just 30 likes. Can we get to 40 likes? Once we get to 40 likes, we'll get the live show off the ground and go over what I believe is the Philadelphia Eagles' biggest weaknesses going into week 2. I consulted our Eagles host here at Chat Sports, Chase Sr., about, hey, some self-scouting. What are Philly's weak points? What are their pressure points that Atlanta can squeeze a little bit, maybe give them a little bit of a Charlie horse, and eke out a road win in Philly on Monday night? So I'm excited to go through that with all of you. And then I just want to have an open forum here. Mailbag time, so taking all of your questions, hashtag Falcons in the chat or super chat, and you'll skip the line and get right to the front and on screen for everyone watching to see. 39 likes, we're 1 like away, so make sure to like the video if you have not already. Giving some quick shout-outs. The Bright Wolf, a big supporter. Thank you so much. Evan Cook, Jason Greenway's here, Antonio Krutz, Christopher Jackson, Grand Limousine Cassidy, Chris Tyler, Jamil Vargas, and we got to 40 likes. Let's go. All right, let's get into a live edition of Falcons Today. Week 2 is here, so let's run through a how-to guide for the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football from the city of brotherly love. Now, before we look at step 1 for beating the Eagles, I want to remind everyone that here at Chat Sports, we are a competitive group, and we are racing the other Chat Sports channel, Eagles Now, to the next 1,000-yard or 1,000 milestone in subscribers. So we've got about 100 sub lead on them, racing to 25K while they're going to 83K. So if you have not subscribed to the channel yet and you want to beat the Eagles, hit that sub button down below. Now, let's talk about some of the weaknesses and the pressure points that the Falcons could squeeze on the Philadelphia Eagles to eke out what's probably going to be a very difficult road win on Monday night. First weakness I noticed for the Eagles when watching their game against the Packers in Brazil, spotty run defense. I'm not going to say the Eagles have a bad run defense. They've got a lot of really good players up front and a lot of talent and a lot of Georgia Bulldogs that you guys are very familiar with. But I think it's fair to say that it's a little bit spotty. Like, let's go back in time to week 1 in Sao Paulo when the Green Bay Packers offense had 163 yards on the ground, an average of 7.8 yards a carry. Josh Jacobs had over 80 yards in the second half alone. So while there are plenty of talented players on the Eagles front, 163 yards, that should be a number that pops out to the Falcons as, ooh, we may have identified an Achilles heel of this defense. When you look at the Eagles' just linebacker core here, there are some really good players. I'm a big fan of Nakobe Dean. I thought he played well against the Packers. Bryce Huff is MIA, so keep an eye on that. Josh Sweat is a good outside backer. And then you look at their defensive line. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. UGA fans know them all too well and know what they're capable of. So there are some really talented players up front for the Philadelphia Eagles, but that does not erase the fact they gave up 163 yards to Josh Jacobs and company, which means when you look at Bijan Robinson and what he was able to do in week 1, 23 touches altogether, 68 rushing yards, 43 receiving yards, over 100 all-purpose yards. There was a lot of good stuff from Bijan's tape. Now, a casual might look at 68 rushing yards and think, Bijan didn't have a great day. What they didn't look at was, for starters, he was going up against a loaded box every single time the Falcons broke the huddle. This is just shame on Zach Robinson, but they became so predictable. All of their runs came out of shotgun. Most of their passes came out of the pistol. So for the Steelers, it was pretty obvious when Bijan was getting the rock. So the fact that he was able to put up those numbers when the defense knew when he was getting the football, that's pretty impressive by itself. So hopefully Zach Robinson and company will not tip their pitches and let the Eagles know when it's a run versus a pass based on the formation. And then then Bijan Robinson is not going up against an 8-man box. Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach himself, pointed out that When he fired up Bijan Robinson's tape today in a meeting, it reminded him of pulling clips of Saquon Barkley when preparing for the Giants. And Barkley, as we know, had an awesome debut for the Eagles, and in my opinion, is one of the best backs in football. So, for Bijan, hopefully he can take advantage of a little bit of a shaky run defense for the Eagles. So let me know. Will Bijan score a touchdown? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. I always want to hear from you guys in the comment section. It's great to have a two-way conversation, so I'm not just talking to a camera the whole time. So let me know down below. Second weakness I identified, blitzing Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't say struggle, but I go back and forth when it comes to evaluating Hurts as a quarterback in general. I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts stan, but there is definitely one weakness, and that is when he is blitzed and he gets uncomfortable, he makes poor decisions. And we're going to look at that in closer detail in just a second. But first, today's video was made possible thanks to our friends over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. So download the Game Time app today to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, let's take a look at Jalen Hurts last year when being blitzed. 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and relatively low completion percentage of 60.5. There are some quarterbacks that, as backwards as it might sound at the surface level, perform better against the blitz because they look at the blitz as an opportunity to get one-on-one matchups and take advantage of that. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, I think when he gets blitzed, he starts to get flustered, and that's when mistakes are made, and that's when sacks are taken. So, who's blitzing him? Well, when you look at the linebackers, this is going to make up a majority of the meat and potatoes for the blitzing crew. Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson, Nate Landman, those 3 linebackers in particular. And let's really highlight Caden Ellis, who, if you recall, 2 years ago, his last year with the Aints, he had 7 sacks. And then last year with the Falcons, he still showed that he's a great pass rusher despite kind of playing a traditional middle linebacker role. So Ellis, Landman, Anderson, those are 3 guys that really got to get after Jalen Hurts when getting called upon. So if you're looking for some players to maybe have a really big night, as long as Jimmy Lake and Raheem Morris dial up the pressure, which I think they should against Jalen Hurts, those 3 players got to bring their A game. I would say this is the time to go full Remember the Titans. Like, I get goosebumps every single time I see the clip of we blitz all night. They don't gain another yard. That's got to be the mentality. That's got to be in the locker room before they take the field. We blitz every play. That's got to be the mantra. Third weakness for the Eagles, picking on some new DBs. The Eagles somewhat revamped their secondary, out with the old, in with the new a little bit. Their first and second round draft picks were on corners and DBs, Quinyon Mitchell and I'm blanking on his name, but Cooper DeJean. I would say the white guy, so that pretty much eliminates every other corner. But when you look at the Eagles' DB snaps from week 1 of this year to all of last season, I mean, just look at some of the new faces on there. Last year being led by James Bradbury. He's on IR to open up the season. That opens the door for Quinyon Mitchell to get a larger role. Free safety Kevin Byard, he's not on the team anymore. CJ Gardner-Johnson comes back to the Eagles. So you've got some new faces there. And what happens when you got new pieces and new players in the secondary? Miscommunications, right? You've got a safety in a corner that think the other guy has the guy, and ultimately that receiver gets wide open. So when you've got some new faces in the secondary, you got to attack those players, especially in the month of September. That's when these miscommunications happen. They're still getting worked out, right? They're still getting on the same page because so much of the NFL is nonverbal. Like a quarterback walks up to the line of scrimmage and him and his receiver, if they've been together for a long time, are just on the same wavelength of, hey, you've got a one-on-one matchup. Well, when we broke the huddle, your route was just a slant. But if you got one-on-one on the outside, you got to go deep. And that's why you see like Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, so many of these great quarterback wide receiver connections put up stupid numbers because they're on the same page. Well, the same goes for the defense, right? As the season progresses, as the offense breaks the huddle, depending on what kind of look they show the defense, well, the defense goes, hey, based on what we have lined up on this side, you know it's a safety you got to help over here more than the other half of the field. You got to play the field side versus the boundary side. So early on in the season, you can take advantage of DBs having these miscommunications. I would like to see Kirk Cousins attack those DBs. And speaking of Kirk Cousins, it is time to come through on Monday Night Football. I mean, this is not this one game is why you paid him $180 million, but you got Kirk Cousins to get back into national relevancy a little bit. The Falcons were one of two teams that did not play a single standalone game last season. That's got to change, and that does change with Kirk Cousins, and especially on Monday Night Football with the whole country watching. Now, unfortunately, in his career, Cousins does not have a great performance on Monday night. He is 3-10 all time. He has shaken that inability to win on primetime. That joke and that run is over. But I do think it's somewhat worth acknowledging that, well, he doesn't have the greatest record and the greatest stats on Monday night or in primetime in general. I mean, think about who he's going up against on Monday night and in primetime. Like, the NFL creates these really tough, good matchups, so you're playing some really good competition. You don't get a lot of Kirk Cousins with the Vikings against, like, the winless Panthers on Monday Night Football where you kind of get an easy win. You tend to get the best opponent possible. So I do think that has to be factored into the equation a little bit, the strength of schedule for these primetime matchups. But still, Cousins, he just simply has to come through. Like, he's got to play much better than he did week one. And the Falcons are very positive and are not blinking whatsoever when it comes to Kirk Cousins and his health and the offensive game plan going into week two. But I'm blinking. Like, what we saw last week was a guy that was a statue in the pocket, zero, and I mean zero play action for a quarterback who led the NFL in play action in 2022. Now, I'm sure the Falcons are going to incorporate some more play action just to get the pressure off of them, but it shouldn't be to get the pressure off of them. It should be because that's what Kirk Cousins is. He's a play action quarterback. That's one of his greatest skill sets. Use it. So predict the score for me. Falcons versus Eagles. Get in the chat right now before we get on out of here. Let me know who you got. And I also want to give a quick shout out, Reed, to the Dirty Birds Club because we will be live for Monday Night Football, doing a watch party. So if you're looking for a spot to watch the game, maybe you have DirecTV and you don't have access to ESPN, well, come hang out with us here. We're giving shout-outs to the Dirty Birds Club, Jose Santana, Ken Ballard, Trey 1222, Jason Lindino, Reese Atkins, Archangel, and Angry Liquid. If you want to get added to the Dirty Birds Club, $100 super chat during our watch party, and we'll toss your name on screen for the entire 2024 season. Oh, Grand Limousine with a $20 super chat. There we go, Grand Limousine. Appreciate you as always. Hope you're having a good one in Houston, which maybe I've just been wrong this whole time. I assumed it was in Atlanta, but Grand Limousine, maybe open up a second store. Some more limos added to the fleet. I love it. All right, let's get some score predictions going in the chat right now. Grand Limousine, thank you so much. Both locations. You guys have it covered on all fronts. 24-20 Atlanta from Bake Ski. Miami, too. Tim Riley, 31-27. Falcons win. Evan Cook, 28-21 Atlanta. Pope, Eagles 35. Falcons 13. I mean, not what I want to hear, but I can't really clown you for it after the way the offense looked in week 1. Mark, 31-29, Atlanta. Jamil, was I cussing in that video? Maybe. We can say naughty words. Fuck shit.
Sometimes we'll go, pardon my French, but fuck that.
Yeah. Fun fact, if you swear in the first 6 seconds of a YouTube video, YouTube gets really upset. So always save the potty mouth for 7 seconds. Tie man, 20-14, Atlanta. Mike, Eagles 31, Falcons 14. 137 people tuned in. So let's talk about something really important for a second here. Do we think, did Shannon Sharp accidentally go live? I tried today to accidentally go live on Instagram. I'd never gone live on Instagram my entire life. I don't think you can butt dial accidental live on Instagram. There's a lot of buttons that have to be clicked. That's a tough thing to do. I'm trying. The only thing that I can think like
to be able to go live, you can't just throw your phone.
Yeah,
and go live.
It doesn't make sense. The thing I struggle with is why would you accidentally but intentionally go live? One, a lot of publicity. He got tons of views and numbers for his YouTube channel, but his YouTube channel was already doing super duper well beforehand. So I don't think he needed the views. I don't think he needs the money.
I think Bake's got it. It's a publicity stunt.
Yeah. Oh, Kenneth, I did not know that. That's new information for me. I also loved what Ocho Cinco said. He was like, dude, you were huffing and puffing a lot. We got to get you on the treadmill. So, yeah, that's the hard-hitting talk we had to have was it staged or was it an accidental live? This is kind of like an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? The accidental text. You text someone that you pretend that you're not texting to, and then they feel a lot better because they realize they got the accidental text. Like, oh, my God, I love to go golfing, but I got to drive my wife to the airport. I love her. I could never let her take an Uber. And then you send that to your wife, and then she feels so bad. She's like, all right, I'll take an Uber. You can go golfing. It's an iconic thing that Larry David created. Jeff, Falcons 21, Eagles 9. You know, after week 1 of the NFL, and my favorite league is the NFL. Like, for me, it goes NFL, NCAA football, MLB, but NFL is always number 1. It was a bad week 1 for a lot of the NFL. Like, if you thought the Falcons had it tough, just look around and you can probably find someone who had it worse. Like, let's go down like the pecking order. Like, you think the Falcons had it worse? How about the Browns and everything they have going at the quarterback position? You think the Browns had it the worst? How about Bryce Young and the Panthers? Like, you can just keep going lower and lower and lower. And I'm not really convinced of any team as being this, like, unstoppable force. The only team that really blew me away was probably the 49ers. They manhandled the Jets, but the Jets aren't very good in my opinion, so I can't make too much out of that. I like the NBA. I kind of fell out of love with the NBA when it became so player-centric and less team-centric. When people had favorite players over favorite teams, I started to disassociate with it because that's not the way my fandom works. I'm not a fan of individuals. Like, I'm a fan of teams. So when it became more about the player than the team itself, for a lot of the viewers, I was like, well, this isn't really like my style. So I still keep up with it, and I still watch playoffs and things like that. But no, I'm not as big as an NBA fan as I was 10 years ago.
So Jamil and Mason are asking for my score prediction.
Yeah. What is it? Because you're an Eagles fan. So give some background.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Philadelphia. So I'm technically an Eagles fan.
Technically?
Yeah.
You just are.
I am.
Yeah.
I am. But I think the Falcons win.
You're pandering. You're pandering.
I'm not just saying that because I'm on Falcons Today.
I actually hate that.
I think it's 2017.
I think you're doing that just to mush us. You're just trying to, like, gaslight us so that we can all feel. And then when the Eagles win, you're like, I picked you guys. I don't know what happened. I would prefer if you picked the Eagles right now.
So I'm only thinking their defense, if the Falcons offense can get it together within the first quarter,
Yeah.
it's going to be a game. And I think the Falcons pull it out. But if Kirk Cousins isn't moving around and isn't doing play action and isn't doing all the things we're talking about, it could be a landslide. But
I'm terrified that we don't see and when I say improvement from Kirk Cousins, none of that has to do with like him not having a great Sunday. I have full faith that Kirk Cousins can bounce back. Like, we know what kind of quarterback he is. I'm purely talking about his health. Can he move and maneuver in the pocket? Can he run a play action? Can he run a bootleg? Those are pretty important things to do. And if you can't do those things, you have to have an incredible amount of like arm talent and football knowledge to overcome that. And Kirk Cousins by no stretch was some Michael Vick beforehand, but like I don't think he's at the level of Peyton Manning to get by with having like no legs. And basically that's what it was on Sunday. All right, let's get to our mailbag. So, hashtag Falcons right now or super chat like Grand Limousine. Go check out Grand Limousine if you're in Atlanta, Houston, and Miami, we learned. So get your questions in the chat right now. Hashtag Falcons or super chat. It can be about the Falcons week 1 game, week 2 game, anything under the sun. It's always great to chalk it up with you guys. I love hanging out here and just talking football, talking whatever. Matthew Fulton, Atlanta secondary will have more opportunities for interceptions this game versus last week. It was Arthur Smith, yeah. I thought this quote from Arthur Smith was great. He talked about how the Steelers have their Jason Bourne in TJ Watt. And what he didn't want to do was feed into Atlanta's Jason Bourne, which was Jesse Bates. So they just avoided the middle of the field altogether. And that got you 18 points. Some Sundays that will win you games. Other Sundays it won't be enough. Lucky for Arthur Smith, he had a defense where 18 points was enough. So if you're a Steelers fan, you come out of that game going like, we won. This is awesome. And great job by the OC, like not giving the Falcons defense their greatest strength. It got you 18 points. What happens when you go up against a team that has a better offense and puts up 21 points? Now it's not looking so good. So if I were a Steelers fan, I would not be over the moon happy with the way they looked week 1 offensively. We'll see if things change once Russell Wilson returns, but if Justin Fields wins in week 2 and they start off 2-0, are they really benching him? I've got a tough time believing that. There's no attachment to Russell Wilson. Like, he's not a draft pick of theirs or a marquee contract signing. He's $1.5 million to them. So if you got a good thing going with Fields, who could be an actual long-term option, I don't know why you would shake it up unless you are convinced in practice that Russell Wilson is leaps and bounds better than Justin Fields. Jamil Vargas, appreciate your question. Archangel, grind to win. Rico, can you join real fast? You're more than welcome to ask a question. Hashtag Falcons or super chat. If a question pops in your mind and you want to skip the line, super chat. Reed will toss it on the screen for everyone watching to see. Okay. Are we ready to jump into a live mailbag? Okay. Before we even start, there's a 95% chance that there will be a question about the Falcons schedule. So I'm just going to put that up in front of me right now because I know that one's coming. Okay. Let's do this thing. Let's answer whatever questions. No, just like on my monitor here. All right, here we go. Let's talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. Welcome on into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here answering questions from our live show, which airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So if you have a question you want to ask, tune in next Thursday, and we'll get your question on screen for everyone watching to see. First question coming in from Mason B. Petey, is the order to not play Falcon starters in the preseason coming from the very top? Is Arthur Blank mandating this? I can't remember the last coach that has done so. I don't think Arthur Smith would choose to micromanage over, Arthur Blank. I've got Steelers week 1 in my head. I don't think Arthur Blank would choose to micromanage in the preseason. There are owners who like to micromanage. Like David Tepper from the Panthers is infamous for this. Arthur Blank, I think, is relatively hands-off. I think he wants to say. I don't think he wants to be a complete backseat guy, but I think he wants his head coach and GM to feel like they have the freedom to make the picks they want. I think it was Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris that drove the ship on Michael Penix and had to convince Arthur Blank to let them do this. So when it comes to preseason football, I'd be surprised if Arthur Blank chooses that battle to fight, but he is the owner. He could do whatever he wants. However, I can't say definitively one way or the other. I hope the Falcons and other teams learned that you should play your starters a little bit in the preseason. Otherwise, you get an NFL low amount of touchdown passes in week 1 across all 32 teams combined over the last 6-7 seasons. Montel Carter, is Kirk hurt? I mean, I wouldn't say that's the $1 million question, but like if we're doing this deal or no deal style, that's like the $500,000 case. Like Kirk Cousins is not hurt to the point where he can't play football altogether, but I do think he is limited, and I do think the Falcons are kind of covering that up. I also think there's some level of like jitters to coming back from an injury mentally. I mean, Kirk Cousins is a guy who's been healthy his entire career. For the first time, he's got to mentally like learn to trust his body again, and that might take some time. So hopefully he is healthy physically, but maybe mentally he needs some more time to trust his leg to, plant that back foot and really drive off of it. But I'm watching clips of him in practice move around and practice play action and whatnot. But then on Sunday, we saw zero of it. So if he can do it in practice, I hope he can do it on the field. The Bright Wolf. Do you think Kirk Cousins and the offensive line will handle the Eagles' defense? Sometimes I think fans forget that this is a sport and that players can have a good game and a bad game and then do it all over again the next week, but reverse it. So while the Falcons' offensive line did not have a spectacular showing against the Steelers, they are athletes and they are highly paid athletes, and I think they are capable of bouncing back and not letting one game set them on a course for the entire season. So hopefully they can. Do I think they will? I think they'll be better than the Steelers. They're not going up against TJ Watt, but the Eagles still have a lot of really good pieces on that defense. But I don't think it's going to be a complete 180, but I think it'll be an improvement and a step in the right direction. Evan Cook, how do you think this loss affects our playoff chances? 26% of teams. Let me back up. Since the NFL expanded to a 14-team playoff beginning in 2020, 26% of teams that made the playoffs lost in week 1. So how does it affect your chances? That, like only 26% of teams make the playoffs after losing week 1 since the playoff expansion. 26 is not a small number. Like you still have a pretty good shot at it. I still like the chances even at 0-1 for the Falcons, given how unproven this NFC South is. However, the Saints and the Bucs looked pretty good in week 1, so I don't think they're fading away just yet. Antonio Kurtz, do we need to lean on Bijan? Robinson had 23 touches in week 1. That was a career high for him. His snaps was a top 5 amount of snaps he's ever had in his career as well. So Atlanta leaned on Bijan plenty in week 1, and I hope they do that again in week 2. Like, this is an offense that has a superstar in the making in the backfield. They should use him, especially if Kirk Cousins is not really 100%, even if the Falcons want to pretend that he is. So I think Atlanta should lean on Bijan 100%. Now, before we look at the other questions you guys have, today's show was made possible thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. So here are my selections for this upcoming Sunday. Going with the more on Caleb Williams, of course. And then I like the more on Jamison Williams. 45.5 receiving yards. He went way over 100 in week 1 for Detroit. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks. Run your game. Getting back to a few of the questions we had come in. Jamil Vargas, a random question, but in the past 5 years, what has been the most entertaining season for the Falcons in your opinion? All right, let's go back 5 years then. Like 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. Entertaining? I think it probably just goes in reverse order. I think it's just gotten less entertaining every single year, right? 2019 to 2020, like you're kind of catching the end of the Matt Ryan era, still hoping to squeeze some good football out of him and, try and hit the, not reset button on Dan Quinn, but the salvage button on Dan Quinn. I guess the better answer here, Jamil, and I don't know if you want this, but the least entertaining season would probably have to be last year. It was just not fun watching Ritter and Heineke whatsoever. No primetime games. That was just a low point, it felt like. So, entertaining, I'd have to go with 2019. Like, at least at that point, you were still in earshot of the great 2016 and 17 seasons and making the playoffs and still feeling like, you know what, this is still a similar roster that can compete. But since then, it's just gotten less and less and less entertaining. Archangel, will the Falcons get Algier more involved this week? He had 10 snaps for 2 carries. I think so, but at the same time, I think in order to get Algier involved more, the offense has to stay on the field more. I think the usage for Algier should be looked at as a percentage, not as a total snap count. The offense, especially in the second half, was just punt, 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 and then running into your guy in motion, fumble, interception. Like, there just weren't enough first downs to keep the ball moving and keep the drive alive for Algier to get touches. So, you want to get Algier involved more? Stay on the field longer. That's step one right there. I don't think that snaps should be taken away from Bijan. I think there just needs to be more offensive snaps for Algier to see the rock more. What's going on, Jason? Did you hear that Michael Lombardi rant? Jason, first off, appreciate the CLNS and the A-Town. I have not heard it because it happened just before we went live, but I am itching to hear it. So at this moment, I am in the dark on this, but by the time this goes out, I will have watched it. So before I watch it, let me just make a conclusion, go on it, and go, screw Michael Lombardi. Rise up. Have no idea what he said, but I know he said something that's got really in the feels of Falcons fans, so I'm team whatever the other side of Michael Lombardi is. Vincent, should the Falcons get rid of Caleb McGarry? I don't think Caleb McGarry should go anywhere this season. I don't think he is as bad as sometimes we make him out to be. He's still a very good run blocker, which traditionally, your left tackle is a pass blocker, your right tackle is a run blocker. So for me, I think Caleb McGarry can play out the rest of the season, and if it doesn't go well, then you know what? Move on from him. There's very little dead money after this year. There's only 1 year left on his contract after this season. So play it out, but I'm not ready to pull the plug on him for this season just yet. Long term, it's not looking great for him to fulfill the rest of his contract. We'll see what kind of offensive identity Atlanta wants. Plus, if you think about it this way too, let's say they want to get Michael Penix starting next year, which I don't think is the case, but just bear with me for a moment. He's a lefty. All of a sudden, your right tackle needs to be your Jake Matthews, your pass protector. Because that is Penix's blind side. So as soon as Penix gets here, a serious investment needs to be made in the right tackle position as a true pass protector. because that's going to be the most important guy in the offensive line. Matthew Fulton, is the idea of obtaining John Mechie out of the window at this time? I think the Falcons are probably going to let the next few weeks play out before the NFL trade deadline, which is early November. There's still a lot of football to be played until then, so I don't think they are rushing to make an acquisition at this point. The season's underway. They've got their roster. Ray McCloud outplayed Drake London and Darnell Mooney in week 1, which I did not think I would be saying a week ago. So they don't have like a major depth issue at the moment. They got to get Drake London and Darnell Mooney going. So I think priority number 1 for getting more play out of the receiver room isn't going external. It's fixing internal, because you've got guys that you drafted top 10 and paid a boatload of money to in free agency. Get them going before we start looking at John Mechie. Matthew Fulton, appreciate your question. Last one coming in from Archangel. Do the Falcons come out more prideful this game with some passion, some anger, some fight spirit? Also, will the coaching plan be a bit better this weekend? I was a little concerned about the way Raheem Morris answered some questions to the media about the game plan. He gave us one big word salad, just talking about the game plan without ever actually acknowledging that the game plan sucked. It was not a good game plan. No matter what way you slice it up or dress it up, you could put lipstick on a pig telling me that Kirk Cousins should not have a single play action snap when he is the play action czar. No, I don't care what you tell me or how the game didn't go your way. No, like the game plan better be better. Now, will they have more fighting spirit? I mean, now we're talking about the character of this locker room. Like, how are the leaders going to rally? There are a lot of really good veteran leaders. Justin Simmons, a captain from his time in Denver. Jesse Bates, a captain. Jake Matthews, here for a decade. Kirk Cousins, an ultimate veteran. Like, it's up to those guys to make sure no one else is panicking. They got to be steady. They got to stay the course. Last question this time from Carson. Should we invest in a right tackle first round next year like Emory Jones to protect Penix's blind side? Carson, I like the question. I think it's got to go pass rusher. Now, it's hard to say what the draft class is going to be looking like next year and where Atlanta will be picking to begin with, but I think you got to go pass rusher. Matthew Judon is probably not going to be a long-term solution for you at that position. So for me, I still think pass rusher number 1. Then we can look at right tackle. But for now, I still think pass rush. Who do you got, by the way? Falcons or Eagles? Battle of the Birds on Monday night. Let me know in the comment section below who you got. I want to see only ATLs. Appreciate everyone for hanging out with us. Grind Morris, I don't think is the right coach. Can I give you guys something to just chew on for a little bit? This is what our Giants host, Marshall Green, predicted. This time next year, Bill Belichick is the head coach of the New York Giants. If Bill Belichick in his first year with the Giants has a better record than Raheem Morris this year, that's going to be a tough pill for Arthur Blank to swallow. Like, it was right in front of you. Belichick or Morris. It's only one game, so we definitely shouldn't be rushing to judgment. But you can also look at a lot of coaches that did not work out that had bad first games. And maybe those guys, you could tell right away, was not the answer. But the thing with Morris is he's such a great communicator and leader and motivator and just representative for a franchise that he doesn't look like an absolute clown or a fraud up there. Just got to get some wins going. And maybe he's just not built to be an NFL head coach from the X's and O's, not the X's and O's, but from the wins and losses standpoint. But I'm not giving up or throwing in the towel after just one game. Okay. Grand Limousine. Tell her I say hello. If you guys want just a quick story that's not really Falcons related, but I feel like everyone could kind of use a little bit of a break from some of the bummer news that's just been the week after losing week 1. Got the live comments back. Walking to work this morning. We got the Steelers channel behind us, and it's just distracting me. Walking to work this morning, I just saw on the ground a couple of like dollar bills. I was like, ooh, got some cash. And I reached down, and I realized it was a wallet that was kind of camouflaged into the color of the road. So I pick up the wallet, and there's ID in it. So I'm like, oh, someone lost their wallet. And look at the ID. Of course, it's not from this state. So I was like, well, I can't really like go to their address or anything. But I just searched them up on Instagram, just DM'd them. Hi, did you lose your wallet? I love my fiance, but man, if I was single in that moment, like just the overall reaction, I had never felt like a true knight in shining armor than finding this poor girl's wallet. She was just overjoyed that I was her saving grace that day. So just gave her wallet. We met up like an hour later, but it felt like a good Samaritan. Felt like, you know what? Got some good karma. Hopefully I get some good betting karma. Because she was like, can I Venmo you? I was like, no, don't Venmo me. She's like, well, I hope you get some good karma. And I was like, you know what? I would love that this weekend because I plan to bet heavily on some college football games. I was great in college last week, not so great in the NFL. Okay. Get in the comment section. Comment to see your name. I like it. I like it. Karma for the Falcons. That's the idea. That's the mantra. Get some good karma for Atlanta week 2, Monday night. It's a live feed of the comment section. So if you type something in, your name will get on screen. Okay. Yeah. What are the steps you personally think we need to take in order to get into a position for success throughout the season and into the postseason? I'll be honest. If I had the steps, I'd probably be a coach. But I think early on, step number one is just you got to get better play from Kirk Cousins. You're going to go usually as far as your quarterback takes you. Unless you have some incredible 85 Bears defense, which Atlanta has a good defense, but it's not an 85 Bears defense. It's going to have to come from the quarterback. So how do you fix that? Well, you got to find a way. Oh, no.
Somebody comment.
Drown it out. Drown it out. ATL, rise up. Drown out the Aints fan. As I was saying, it's got to come from Kirk Cousins, though. You got to get him back to where he was doing successfully in Minnesota that made you want to sign him. Health, play action, good ground game. Kirk Cousins is not some West Coast offense-style quarterback, right? You're not trying to spread everything out wide with him. Get back to the basics a little bit. Drown out the Aints fan. Start spamming ATL. Wallace, the offensive line has to block better. Yeah, agreed. The offensive line just got worked week 1. I think that's partially because they didn't play in the preseason. Can't prove it. That's the one thing with the preseason. No matter what side you stand on when it comes to resting starters or not, you can't prove it. If you are in the camp of play the starters in the preseason and they get injured, well, you're going to be the laughingstock. But if you get an example like week 1 against the Steelers, I can't actually say for fact that if they had played in the preseason, they would have performed better in the regular season. But it's a fair assumption to make, I think. We got plenty of ATLs rolling in. I love it. The Bright Wolf, F the Aints. F the Aints indeed. Is it week 4? No, it's week 4 is against the Bucs. No, I'm going off my head right now. We have week 2 against the Eagles, week 3 against the Chiefs, week 4. No, I think week 4 is against the Saints, and then week 5 is against the Bucs. Now I fact check myself. Yes. So week 4 can't get here soon enough. That's going to be a blast. If we get some more super chats, we could stay live. Otherwise, though, unfortunately, we're just at a little bit of a crunch of studio space. It is exciting to see, though, that we are hopefully expanding our offices soon. Kind of waiting on the red tape of all the permits and construction dealio. And then we just get our own studio. It'd be awesome. GG Prods, week 4, going to be a movie. I'll be at the game. I do want to see, I've never been to the Superdome, but I do kind of want to see it now with all the renovations that got done. It looked kind of like a historic dump before then. Now it's got some real class to it.
Ooh, time man. I like this.
Yeah, Dolphins, Bills.
Bills.
Who do you guys got tonight? Miami or Buffalo? I am in on the Dolphins.
Me as well.
I don't know why, but I just always find myself picking the Dolphins. So I've not become a Dolphins fan, but I've become a Dolphins defender. Like when other people say the Dolphins are bad, for whatever reason, I feel the need to speak up and go like, no, I like Tua. I'm a Tua believer. So I'm going with the Dolphins. Bright Wolf is going with Miami. Yeah, JB, I need to see Casey Washington out there. Let that serve as a reminder that every year people fall trapped to watching the preseason storylines and feeling like that's going to be a reflection in the regular season. Casey Washington had a great preseason. Dude is not even dressing for week 1. It just goes to show the disparity is so much larger than you think it is between the preseason and the regular season. Earlier, I was asked a trivia question. Can I name I think it was five teams that have never won a game in a single season in NFL history. And there are 2 very recent ones that everyone should get immediately. But then you got to go back a little bit further. And I pointed out it used to be a 14-game schedule. It only got up to 16 sometime in the early 90s. But back when it was a 14-game schedule, I'm 93% sure they played 6 preseason games. I could not have handled 6 preseason games.
It's 5 teams. The 5 teams that have a winless season.
Yep. 5 teams that have a winless season. You got the 2 kind of obvious ones, which I'll say out loud in 30 seconds. And then you got to dig back a little bit deeper. I was able to guess one. I didn't know like for sure one way or the other, but I was trying to think just educational guesses of which ones would have a decent shot. And I was able to nail one of the other 3 because I knew that team got the first overall draft pick, and it was a very notable draft pick of theirs. And I was like, they might have had a winless season because that player did not want to go to that team. So we have the first 2. JB, we didn't have any rookies dressed, did we? Penix and also JT Bertrand, 5th-round pick out of Notre Dame for special teams. He dressed. I'm not even sure if he played in special teams, though. Let's look it up. I cannot say that JT Bertrand was someone I was watching closely for on
Nicholas,
Sunday.
I would like to see the Eagles win. I'm an Eagles fan, but I would also love to see the Falcons win because I'm Falcons Today producer.
23.
So it's a win-win for me.
23 snaps for JD on Sunday. So we got the Browns and the Lions, right? 0-17. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 0-16, 0-16. Other 3 winless teams. My guesses were the Saints, the Patriots, and the Colts. I knew the Patriots historically were very bad before Brady and Belichick. And that's not widely known because you just never think of the Patriots that way. They avoided a winless season, though. I guess the Saints because they had Archie Manning, but they had some really bad years early on. So I thought maybe they had one winless one, but they did not. I guess the Colts because I knew that they drafted John Elway first overall, and I knew that Elway didn't want to play there. So I thought maybe they went winless, and that's why he didn't want to play there. And sure enough, the Colts had a winless season. Do you remember the other 2 that were winless seasons? Yes, this one I should have gotten. I'll give everyone like 5 more seconds. This team has the worst winning percentage in NFL history. And they have won 2 Super Bowls. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They had a winless season. And then the other one, what was the other one? Browns, Lions, Colts, Bucks. Now I'm thinking, I remember it. It is a team that used to be very, very bad and then got very, very good. And now they are kind of a joke because they are not back at the top. No, not the Patriots. Cowboys. 1960 Cowboys. Cowboys were really bad until Jerry Jones bought them. So those are the 5 teams that have never won. Oh, sorry. Those are the 5 teams that have a winless season.
Archangel is saying that I shouldn't be happy if the Falcons win because he needs someone to talk shit to.
Yeah, you got to pick.
Maybe I'll just play
I'll
the
be
villain
honest.
card.
I don't need any Switzerland bullshit from you. You got to pick your Eagles. Don't go back and forth. No one likes the guy that bets on both teams and you can't even figure out which side he's rooting for. You got to stick true to the birds. This is your team. I don't know why you're allowed to be an Eagles fan.
But I like everybody in the chat though. I love rooting with everyone else.
You be the heel. We need a villain.
Should I?
Yes. All
right.
Be a fan.
42-10 Eagles.
There it goes. I want
kidding.
the most always sunny in Philadelphia guy I can get on Monday night. Be on your worst. Cheesesteaks and all. Bright Wolf.
Should I wear my Carson Wentz jersey?
Yeah. PD, what's your national championship prediction? Great question. I initially thought Oregon. Does that look dumb now? There's just no way they go all the way. So I'm going to go with Georgia, and I will say Ohio State. I just think Ohio State's talented enough to get all the way to the top of the Big Ten. Michigan is not going to beat them this year. They're just looking bad. So they're probably just going to go undefeated in the regular season and secure probably the 2 seed after whoever wins the SEC gets the 1 seed. And then they got to just win, 1 game? No, 2 games. 2 games to get to the Natty. So I'll go with UGA, Ohio State. But as a Tennessee grad, I hope the Bulldogs lose. I know that's not going to go over well with my audience, but I don't care. Go Vols.
Everyone can clown me because I'm a Florida State fan. So
yeah, that is yikes. I'm looking pretty good right now for my Tennessee future to make the college football playoff. Okay. That's going to do it for us on our live show today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. It's always a blast getting to talk Dirty Birds with you all. Hope you all have a great weekend. I'm actually flying home tomorrow morning and going to Medieval Times. So a little fun fact about your host, I love Medieval Times. And one of my friends from high school was like, I'm having a birthday party. And I was like, I'm probably not going to fly in for a birthday party. And he's like, and it's at Medieval Times. And I booked a flight. So impulsive, somewhat intoxicated purchase, but I'm pumped for it. I don't know anyone. I only know 5 people going. We have a party bus, and it's a lot of him and another guy from his college are sharing this birthday party. It's a lot of their college friends, and I don't know any of them. But I bought a King Arthur costume on Amazon, so I'm going all out. I am a Medieval Times. I wouldn't say addict, but stan.
You want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
I've never been.
You got to go. I know all the castle locations. I love great food, great dinner, great show. Can't beat it. If Medieval Times sponsors us, I will shit my pants. That's how much I love Medieval Times. All right. We will let you guys get on out of here. Boomstick is Atlanta sports cooked for the next 2 years. The Braves just got to get healthy. Unfortunately, their run at the top of the NL East is going to come to an end because of injuries. And baseball is just a really weird sport, right? It's just a little bit fluky at times. Braves, just come back next year, get healthy. Hawks, get some Hennessy.